Good afternoon, Ponaganset.
The moving wall will be here November 1st to November 5th.
This is a time to honor and respect those who sacrificed their lives for our nation.
It is important to maintain a dignified and respectful mood at the moving wall.
Between November 1st through the 5th, the front circle will be considered hallowed ground.
Many families and loved ones will be here to mourn their loss, and many veterans will also be here to heal their wartime wounds.
Please remain quiet when outside.
Please refrain from any horseplay, including running, wrestling, loud noises, or yelling.
Please refrain from cursing.
Make sure to turn your cell phone to silent and refrain from using them throughout the days. Also, you can take photos, but make sure the sound is off.
During the week, you will have to enter the building by the connector or the field house. The front entrances to the school will be closed to all vehicle traffic on the afternoon of October 31st.
During the week, you should take the school bus or try to carpool. Parking will be severely limited on Thursday, November 1st, Friday, November 2nd, and Monday, November 5th.
If you have to drive to school, look for the alternate parking places for those days.
During the week, there are 4 school-wide assemblies that will take place outside.
These are formal ceremonies to remember and honor our war dead.
A number of elected officials, dignitaries, and guest speakers will be participating this week.
Given the events are outdoors, you should dress appropriately. A cold weather jacket, sweater, and hat and gloves will ensure you are comfortable.
Do not wear shorts, t-shirts, dresses, or skirts on those days.
You are expected to be polite and respectful at all times.
Remember, you're a chieftain, and you will not only be representing Ponaganset, but the entire state of Rhode Island.
Thank you.
Last year I had the opportunity to teach film studies, and we did happening truth and story truth, which is generally something that's covered with Tim O'Brien. But I used it to look at art versus reality of filmmaking. So we showed The Vietnam War by Ken Burns, and had the opportunity later in the year with Terry Spizo to talk to Ken Burns live over the internet. At the end of that particular segment, Jamie Nadiger asked, "Hey, Mr. Stanley, can we go see the wall?" I said, "That's kind of complicated. I'll do something better. I'll bring the wall to you." And that's where it generated from. It's really a class project. It started in both that film studies class and AP US History last year. The film studies kids got really involved. They continue to come back and get involved, as well as last year's sophomores in the AP class. With the AP kids, they're developing an entire museum that will be on display during the Candlelight Vigil and the kickoff to the Things That Carry distribution. So they're intimately involved with that. Kids wrote their own commercials, produced their own commercials, recorded their own commercials, so you can hear those on 630 WPRO, starting in August all the way up to the last day that the wall is here. They tell their story and why they want the wall to come here and what they hope to learn from it. The AP kids this year and other students are going to be interviewing Vietnam veterans and recording those personal stories and creating an archive so that the community and teachers can go back and learn from those stories.
Hi, I'm Cal Perillo. I'm in 11th grade.
I'm Emily Williams. I'm in 12th grade.
I'm Nikki Trahan. I'm in 12th grade. I'm Katie Mooney. I'm in 11th grade.
Right after high school, I went into the Air Force. I had actually signed up for the Air Force in December of my senior year. Boot camp in August of 1980. I was 17 years old, and I got my first taste of military life because I was pretty clueless going into the military. Not too many people in my family had served. I think I had an uncle who had served in Vietnam.
Well, as a freshman in college, I had a strong desire to serve in the military, against my parents' wishes. My parents were brought up in war-torn Europe, primarily Italy, and their view, their experience with all military, whether it was Allied or whether it was the fascist government at the time or the Nazis, was not favorable. It was negative. Being the son of immigrants, I always felt it was important for me to give back to the United States, because the United States gave my parents opportunity. And that opportunity gave me a wonderful life. So there was a stronger sense of patriotism within me. I joined the United States Marine Corps my freshman year at Providence College. I entered into what is called the PLC program, the Platoon Leaders Course. It was designed to give young men and women an opportunity to train as officers for 2 separate summers, after which you decided if you were going to accept your commission upon graduation from college. I fulfilled my 2 summers and was even more eager to receive my commission. I was one of a few fortunate individuals that was able to be not only commissioned in front of his family, but also commissioned on the USS Constitution in the Boston Naval Yard, the old Ironsides, with full drum and fife regalia. It was wonderful. I don't ever recall my father being more proud.
Because I was selected for the language program, the Defense Language Institute, and they taught me Russian language for 47 weeks. I went from being not speaking Russian at all to knowing a fair amount of the language, about as much as you can in 47 weeks. I was about 18 years old, had a top secret and then some clearance, just like everybody in the linguist field. And it was a great opportunity, excellent schooling, no nonsense. The military schools have this great program called Washing Out. There's no retaking tests there. If you don't get it right the first time, see you later. And you would see your friends go down. That was about the same time the Queen song came out. Another One Bites the Dust. Yes, we listened to that one a lot. I'm proud to say I made it through that training, worked my butt off, and I got a B. There were a lot of smarter people than me in there. They got A's.
Once I completed my training as a platoon leader, I embarked on my active duty as a second lieutenant in the Marine Corps. I went to Quantico, Virginia, to the basic school where all second lieutenants go. It's where we are taught that we are first and foremost Marines. The Marine Corps is steeped in tradition and culture, and they instill in you a sense of pride, to the point where after some given speeches, you're ready to go out and spit nails after eating steel.
My military experience, I served 6 years and ended up going most of that time, about 1.5 years in Texas, 3 years in England. That was a really nice assignment. My last year was in Missouri, and I had a month or 2 here or there in survival school, special survival school. But that's a story for another time.
I chose my military occupational specialty to be infantry, 0302. I was an infantry platoon commander, and my first assignment was being attached to 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines, per the 1st Marine Division in San Diego, California, Camp Pendleton, where I took over a platoon, and I'll never forget it, 3rd Platoon in Kilo Company. I was introduced to the real men and women of the Marine Corps at that point, and I found out that I knew very little. One of the experiences that I had growing up was having cousins and older friends sitting in front of the television, waiting to see if their name was called or their number was called for the lottery. And what the lottery meant is that you needed to report to a draft center and see what branch of the service that you would be going into. There was a big sigh of relief in the room when someone's number wasn't called. And early on, we were taught that it was an unpopular war. The men and women that served in Vietnam, they were in our community, we knew who they were, and they weren't treated with the respect, the kindness, and they weren't given thanks for their service to this country as the men and women who now serve get. I remember being in Washington, D.C., and there was still, in 1980, my first year at OCS, where the military presence wasn't welcomed. There were still people who harbored ill feeling against the men and women that served in a very unpopular war. They were labeled baby killers, and they were spat upon. Men and women who lost limbs were not reveled for their heroism, but looked at as despicable individuals. And it didn't sit well with me at the time. I didn't want to, I wasn't against anyone who was against the Vietnam War. That was their right. It was their right to voice their opinion, to protest in a peaceful manner. And for the most part, people did. But then there were horrifying images on television. Buddhist monks so against the war that they would literally burn themselves. People burning flags. You saw men come back from Vietnam not to a welcoming society. And a lot of these men, more so than women, were almost castigated or became fringe citizens. There were a lot of homeless veterans. And, you know, when you live a sheltered life, you don't really see all that. But when you do, it strikes a chord. I didn't feel that America served the men and women that served them so valiantly in the right way.
I think it's an opportunity to educate the student body about Vietnam and just to kind of bring what happened in the war over to Ponaganset. I think it's really important because not a lot of students know about the Vietnam War and what exactly happened. So I think it's going to be a terrific opportunity just to kind of inform the student body.
And like after the war too, of Vietnam, lots of soldiers didn't get the recognition that they deserved after the war. And so now this is a time where we can show them the recognition that they deserve and that they should have gotten all those years ago.
I think it's going to be quite emotional for people, especially who haven't gotten the opportunity to see the real wall in DC. It's going to be a great opportunity for them to be able to see it for the first time. So it's going to mean a lot to a lot of people.
I think it's incredibly important to honor our vets. These people have gone through so much, especially our wartime vets. The only way to get a feel for what our vets have gone through is to join the military yourself. The guys who've served in wartime have been through more than any of us can ever imagine, and it's so important to treat our vets with honor. They've defended our country. One of the reasons we have a great country is because we have great veterans. So treating these people with honor, when you meet one, tell them thank you for your service and show your appreciation. Sadly, it hasn't always been like that. A good example is after the Vietnam War, where these vets who were shipped over to Vietnam against their will being drafted, they didn't want to go over there. They came back and were not treated very well for the most part. And this is our opportunity to rectify the situation coming up very soon. So, honor our veterans.
The Vietnam Memorial was unveiled in Washington, D.C. Now, I'd been to the Washington Memorial, the Lincoln and the Jefferson Memorial, and the scene around those memorials were almost festive. I had been to the Iwo Jima Memorial, which was a turning point in World War II in the Pacific. And still, it was a form of celebration. But the Vietnam Memorial was different. There were notes left. There were medals left. There were things left from men and women who served in the war. To see the friends, the names of their friends and comrades on that wall. It was somber. It was a place where you went there to honor those who made the ultimate sacrifice, not to celebrate the fact that that war was ended. It shed chills up and down my spine. I was a 22-year-old man who felt like he knew everything, but woke up one morning knowing very little. I am hoping that we see citizenry, not just from our community, from throughout the state and nearby states, who have never had an opportunity to be in Washington, to see the wall, but more importantly, to be able to interact with those men and women who served during that time. I'm not looking at it as a celebration as much as I am looking forward to this as a history lesson.
Obviously, you're going to probably be able to feel the emotions even just looking through a window. You'll be able to kind of tell like the looks on people's faces, and you'll be able to feel like that emotion and the energy throughout all the days that it's here, whether you're directly with the people who are looking at the wall or you're either just looking through like a distance.
Yeah. Like going back to the 8th grade when we went to the wall, before you don't realize how much of an impact the war had on people. But when you go to the war and you see people like crying and looking like at the names of people they lost, you start to realize how big of an impact it had on lots of people's lives, and it will show through the weekend.
I think that's going to be like an important part of it, is because like not everyone who's here now went in 8th grade or has ever had the chance to go, and so now like it's here and it's kind of brought to them, and they really get to see like how it affects everyone around them.
And even lots of people that had families, haven't, like family members that passed away in the war, haven't gotten a chance to go to Washington, D.C. to see the wall. So they get to experience it here.
This is an opportunity for our students in the entire Ponaganset community to learn more about the Vietnam War, to learn more about our military history. This is an opportunity for the many, many people who are going to come here to share some of that emotion, to make these connections. Many of the people coming here are going to be veterans. Many are going to be family. Many are going to be friends. Many will have lost family members and friends. This is going to be a deeply moving experience and something we can all learn about. I think it's an opportunity for us to pay tribute to our veterans, and in particular our Vietnam veterans.
Now, it might be almost like a county fair. It might almost be like a carnival atmosphere where we see car after car piling in, different civic groups, different school groups, but we must set the tone. As long as we remain respectful, then those who visit will take the same tone. We're going to meet men and women who served. We're going to hear from speakers give incredible perspective, detail in their accounting of that time in our history. The wall is about those who didn't come home, but every name in that wall is at home.
Well, Emily and I did a clam bake for him last year, and that kind of raised money for the wall.
Yeah, we, well, in our class, we made posters for the wall as an assignment, and also a couple weeks ago, there was a golf tournament that we helped out at.
There was a couple other fundraisers we helped out. We did a couple like dinner nights. We did a soup night and a pasta night, and it just kind of like brought like everyone who had an interest in either supporting the wall or coming to visit the wall, just kind of brought them all together to give them like a common night to come and support and like donate in any way they could.
It not only like raised money for it, but it also kind of got the word out that the wall's coming, and so people can hear about it from all over. If they hear we have a fundraiser, they'll be wondering what it's about, and they'll know that it's for the Vietnam Moving Wall.
And lots of like small businesses donated a lot of money too, which helped out a lot. We did a like commercial with W something, PRI or something.
PRO.
Yeah, and it was just a radio commercial to help spread the word on the moving wall.
Yeah, we went to talk to John Laughlin, and he kind of did a little interview between a couple of Mr. Stanley students and himself, you know, just about like what brought the wall to Ponaganset, like what we're going to see when it's here. And we got to talk about it a little bit, each of us ourselves.
Different things along the way, keynote speakers, different activities. The wall will arrive on the 1st with a great deal of pomp and circumstance. We will have an escort, and Father Salwa, who is the La Salette Shrine priest will come and bless the wall. He too himself did a tour of duty in Vietnam, and he spent the rest of his life ministering to vets and their particular needs. And then we have an opening ceremony with a flyover. Lieutenant Governor, all the dignitaries will come and speak, and individuals will share their stories. Then we'll set the wall up. And on Saturday, we have the big skydiving team from the U.S. Navy Academy. That's probably a nice little crowning achievement as well. I think that was important to get, given the fact that Senator John McCain just passed, so it's a little nod to the cap to him. On Sunday, we have Roger Harris coming and speaking. He's the former superintendent of schools in Boston. He also appears in the Ken Burns film. And then on Monday, we wrap up with the closing ceremony. And we have the United States Navy Band coming to play. And we will have also a flyover from the United States Coast Guard.